Hi class, today we are going to start our reading lesson by going over our I can statement. So what we're going to be learning this week. So right here, let's read it together. It says, I can retell. That means tell a story again, a story in order of how the events happened. So when you read a story, we're going to learn how to tell it again in order of how the events happened. Before we do this, I want to review what we learned last week. So we learned about some question words. We're going to go over some of these because we still need to ask questions while we're reading. That's what good readers do. So the first question word is who. Those are questions about characters. Who is in the story? Who's the story about? What? That would be what happens in the story. What are some of the events that happen in the story? When? That would be like what time things take place, when things happen. Where would be like the setting, so where the story takes place. Why? That would be the reason why certain events happen in the story. And how, a question starting with the word how would be asking about how many, how long, how big, or how old. You can ask how. So I'm going to go over what we're going to be learning this week, but we still need to remember these question words. So let's remember also our class expectations. Mrs. Cooper's class and Mrs. Z's class have similar class expectations to stay focused, have good attitudes, and try our best. All right, so what we're going to be learning this week is retelling events. And we have a B, M, and E here. What do you think those letters stand for? That's right, beginning, middle, and end. So while you're retelling your story, you're going to break it up into the beginning of the story, the middle of the story, and the end of the story. So you're going to answer some questions for each section of the story to retell it. So I'm going to share the beginning first. So to retell a beginning of a story, you're going to answer, who are the characters? That means who is in the story? Who's the story about? You're going to also answer, what is the setting? That means, where does the story take place? Where are the characters living? Where are they at? M stands for middle. We're going to answer this question. What happens to the characters? And usually in the middle, oh no, there's a problem. So there's usually a problem in the middle of the story. Let's see if that's true while we're reading our stories this week. And E stands for end, and we're going to answer this question at the end to retell it. How are the characters different? So that means they're not the same, different than they were at the beginning of the story. And typically you find a solution. So that means the problem is solved at the end. That's why it says, yay, solution. And remember, good readers, they ask questions while they're reading, are who, what, when, where, why, how, but they also sequence events. Sequence, that's a really tricky word. That just means you retell, so you tell a story again in order of how the events happen. So if there's a story about Johnny and he went to the park and he played soccer first and then he played football, you would retell the story by saying Johnny went to the park and played soccer first, then he played football. You wouldn't say Johnny went to the park and he played football and then he played soccer, because you want to keep it in order of how the events happened. So I get to read you a very, very exciting story today. This is one of my favorite stories. We have some really great ones this week, actually. So this one is called The Good Egg. Some of you might have read this already. It is by Jory, John, and Pete Oswald. All right, so let's get started. Oh, hello. I was just rescuing this cat. Know why? Because I'm a good egg. A very good egg. So right now, we are at the beginning of the story, and we're going to ask, who are the characters? Remember our question word. Who are the characters, or who is the character? So who's the character? That's right, the good egg. Good job. So we already answered one of our questions. It's true. I do all kinds of good things, like I'll carry your groceries. I'll water your plants. I'll change your tires. He sounds like a good friend. I'll paint your house. If you need any help whatsoever, I'm your egg. I've always been a good egg. It's been this way from the start, even in my earliest days. Back at the store, there were dozens of us under one recycled roof. There was Meg, and Peg and Greg and Clegg and Shell and Shelly and Shelton and Shelby and Egbert and Frank and the other Frank. So now we have to ask another question. We're at the beginning of the story. What is the setting? Where does the story take place? He is living in an egg carton, so that's the setting. Great job. Let's keep reading to get to the middle. The other 11 eggs weren't on their best behavior. They weren't exactly good. They ignored their bedtime. They only ate sugary cereal. Oh. They threw tantrums. They cried for no reason. They broke their stuff on purpose. Do they sound like good eggs? I don't know. Meanwhile, I tried to take charge. I tried to fix their bad behavior. I tried to keep the peace because I was a good egg. A very good egg. Nobody seemed to care, though. Every night I was exhausted. My head felt scrambled. How? There's a question word. Good readers ask questions while they're reading. How do you think Mr. Egg, the good egg, is feeling right now? I'd like you to think of that. How do you think the good egg is feeling right here? I think he feels really tired from trying to fix everyone else's problems and trying to make them be good. Okay, let's move on. One fateful morning, I noticed some cracks in my shell. They were everywhere. Uh-oh, where are we now? We moved into the middle now. We're going to answer the problem. What happens to the characters? Oh no, problem. This sounds like a problem. So, our question word. Why? I'm going to ask a question using the word why. Why is he cracking? Why do you think he's cracking? I think he's cracking because he's under a lot of stress. When you have a lot of things going on and you're worried about a lot of stuff, you can be really stressed. I think that's why he's cracking. Let's see. Let's keep reading. The doctor said it was from all the pressure I was putting on myself. The pressure of making sure everyone was as good as me. I was cracking up. Literally. I had to change. I'd had enough. I told Meg and Peg and Greg and Clegg and Shell and Shelly and Shelton and Shelby and Egbert and Frank and the other Frank that I was leaving. I can't be the only good egg in a bag carton, I said. Blah, 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 they replied. Not very nice, are they? I left that night. I wandered from town to town. The hours became days. The days became weeks. I lost track of time. I was alone. Out there on the road, under the stars, I tried to focus on myself and what I needed. I took walks. I read books. I floated in the river. I wrote in my journal. I found simple moments to be quiet. I breathed in. I breathed out. I even started painting. For once, I found time for me. And guess what? What do you think happens? What, there's a question word, do you think happens to the good egg? Little by little, the cracks in my shell started to heal. My head no longer felt scrambled. I started to feel like myself again. So I've made a big decision. I'm returning to my old carton and my friends. Besides, I'm kind of lonely out here. This time, I know what I need to do. I'll try not to worry so much. I'll be good to my fellow eggs while also being good to myself. So we're going to ask a question. We're at the end of the story. How are the characters different than they were at the beginning of the story? How is the good egg different at the end of the story than they were at the beginning of the story? I'll give you a second to think about that. I think he's different because he's not putting as much pressure on himself. He is making time for himself and not trying to fix other people's problems. So we answered the question, how does the character change? And that's the solution. He no longer has his problem. We found the solution at the end of the story. So when the problem is fixed, you're usually at the end of the story. Here we go. Everybody missed me. I missed them too. The sign says, welcome home. Hello, Meg. Howdy, Peg. Hey, Greg. Greetings, Clegg. What's up, Shell? Hola, Shelly. Hey-o, Shelton. Hi, Shelby. Good day, Egbert. What's happening, Frank? Howdy do, other Frank. Sure, everyone once in a while is somebody, every once in a while, somebody's still a little bit bad, but it's not like it was before. Here's what I realized. The other eggs aren't perfect, and I don't have to be either. Oh, I love that. No one's perfect, right? We don't have to be perfect and put pressure on ourselves to be perfect. Everybody makes mistakes sometimes. Mrs. Z makes mistakes sometimes. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to try your best at everything that you do. And I'm okay with that. Yep, the old carton is back together. We're a solid dozen again. It's good to be home. Thank you so much for reading this story with me, boys and girls. Remember that we are going to retell events by looking at the beginning, middle, and end of the story. Who are the characters? What is the setting? What happens to the characters? Oh no, there's a problem. And then how are the characters different than they were at the beginning of the story? And usually, yay, a solution. And good readers tell the events in order of how they happened. So I am so excited to see what you do today on Seesaw. I can't wait to look at your work, and I've had a great last week with you, and I hope you continue to do great work. Bye, boys and girls.